if it's not Hollywood celebrities running a campaign against Trump, even though he's already been elected, it's of course the mainstream media. According to research by the Media Research Center, US broadcast networks ABC, CBS and NBC devoted over 46 minutes to Trump's pardoning of January 6 defendants last week. And in comparison, the networks gave just 3.5 minutes to former President Joe Biden's last-minute pardons for his family members. I mean, can you believe this?
Well, of course I can believe it. I mean, one of the most interesting people that he pardoned was not just the Biden family, but Dr. Anthony Fauci. And, according to the mainstream media, Dr. Fauci can do no wrong whatsoever. So why would it even be necessary for him to even need a pardon? So we hear nothing about that on the mainstream media. We hear all day long about January 6th and how it's bad that he let out these people that were basically, railroaded by the Department of Justice. And you know what? If January 6th, I'm not saying it was a great thing, but if the government would have just given these people fair punishments, misdemeanors, it wouldn't have had to be so terrible. But they gave people life sentences. They threw the book at these people when they let other protesters during the Summer of Love burn down every auto zone from Minnesota to Texas. So we have a two-tier justice system. It's all getting exposed now that Donald Trump is back in office. And, of course, the mainstream media is going to cover Donald Trump and all of his pardons, but just not mention all of the horrible crooks and criminals that Joe Biden just pardoned with, the flick of his wrist before he left office.
And the fact that he did it with just 20 minutes left as president. And of course he timed it that way, right? It was Inauguration Day, so the focus would be on President Trump. And so they were essentially, going along with what Biden wanted, which is, of course, to sweep it under the rug, pretend that all of his family members are innocent. And, of course, so was Anthony Fauci. But isn't it interesting after years of being told that COVID came from a bat and any lab leak theory is, of course, BS? Now the CIA has concluded that COVID-19 likely originated from a lab leak in China. Would you believe it? This, of course, comes as no surprise to those who have been following this closely. But what does it tell you, Alex?
Well, really, it's just, and in my opinion, in a way, another lie, because, yes, COVID-19 was terrible, but we've had sudden acute respiratory syndrome. SARS didn't just get invented in 2020. We've had MERS, Middle Eastern respiratory syndrome. So we've had serious respiratory illnesses that have happened in history. So, of course, this did come out of a lab, but it's a much darker thing, the fact that they wouldn't give any other remedies, because that was the only way that you can get an emergency use authorization for the vaccine with no long-term testing. So we got bamboozled this entire process, when not just where did the virus come from, but what remedies to stop the virus. And really, I'm sick about it. It makes me ill to think about how they got away with this, and Dr. Fauci is going to get off scot-free. And I'm not even saying that he should be in jail. It's just a bad situation where the American people had to pay the price for a government that was very incompetent, for the FDA, everybody involved in this whole entire process, the World Health Organization. They were all incompetent and didn't help save lives. And I can prove that when you look at Nigeria's COVID death rates, it was much lower than America's. How is that even possible? How does a third world country like Nigeria handle COVID better than the United States of America, that supposedly has the best healthcare system in the world? It doesn't make sense, Gabriella.
No, it absolutely doesn't. And while we're on the topic of COVID, US service members who were dismissed for refusing the vaccine will be reinstated with full back pay and benefits under this executive order signed by President Trump. Now, this decision is fulfilling a campaign promise by Trump. This was something that he was promising to do during his inaugural address. And what a win for everyone who stood up for themselves, who didn't want to be forced into something that they were told they had to do.
It's crazy. Isn't this insane how we feel like we just keep winning again? People are getting redeemed. They lost their jobs and not just service members, but firemen, cops, just so many people, teachers lost their jobs because they wouldn't take an experimental vaccine. And listen, if you want to take the vaccine, that's great. You're welcome to take it. But by mandating it, making people lose their jobs, lose their ability to travel, lose their ability to see their loved ones before they passed away, all because of these mandates, it feels good to finally have some justice served, but it couldn't have come soon enough. And thank goodness Donald Trump is following through with his promises that he did on the campaign trail.
Another promise, a nationwide immigration crackdown has resulted in the arrest of almost 1,000 people, according to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. And a number of federal agencies with newly expanded detention powers were involved in the raids in a number of cities, including Chicago and Miami. Here we are again, winning, Trump delivering.
No, it's so awesome. I mean, ICE, they're being so aggressive. Even the TSA is like, whoa, chill out, ICE, chill out. We're supposed to be the aggressive ones here in America. But no, I love it. And like I said, Donald Trump has said this so many times, is that he's not anti-immigration. It's that he's anti-illegal immigration. So we're not going to be able to just hand out free hotel rooms and gift cards in Manhattan anymore. And these people got to go. And Tom Homan and ICE, and they're doing a great job. But it's never going to be enough. You know, they have to continue to work every single day because they are facing a very, very tough opponent when it comes to the cartel, because this is an organized crime ring. So their work is cut out for them. But I love the direction that America is trending when it comes to illegal immigration.
I want to talk to you about the First Lady. The White House has unveiled the official portrait of First Lady Melania Trump, and this black and white image is going viral on social media for all the right reasons. We know that Melania looked magnificent on Inauguration Day, and here she is again. So, whether you like the Trumps or not, you cannot deny that Melania has a lot of style.
Well, they didn't like to feature her on any, fashion magazine, from Vogue to, I can't even think of them because I don't read any of them, but they didn't publish any of her pictures on the cover. But now seeing this photo, I think they're going to actually realize that this is what the American people want. And this is the other thing with this photo. If you look at Melania, when she's wearing that tuxedo and she has the cummerbund, she looks so official. And Donald Trump might be the leader of the free world, but Melania is probably the leader of Donald Trump. Let's be real. So she is kind of secretly the most powerful woman, on planet Earth.
Oh, yeah. And she looks like a boss, doesn't she? And look, we don't just have a real president back, seeing as Joe Biden's gone and no one seemed to know who was actually running the country, but we have a comedian in the White House. Here is Donald Trump absolutely on fire.
To any country, it didn't matter. He would never pick up the call. They'd say, he'll call you back in 2 months. Then he'd never call, and then they could never get him on the phone. And the problem I have is that when I speak to and I speak to them immediately, they'll say, could we speak to the president? Would that be possible? We could do it anytime over the next month. They're so used to this, right? I say, no, I'll pick it up right now. Is he on the phone? Yeah, hello, how you doing? They were so starved for love from the United States, I cannot get them off the phone. I can't get people, if you can't, I say, I have to go now, King, or I have to go now, President. But you can't get them off the phone. They're starved for love. For years they haven't spoken. They didn't even know we had a president, if you want to know.
He's brilliant, but there's a bit of truth to that. We know that Joe Biden wasn't picking up the phone. He was probably asleep. He had to go to bed at 8 p.m. And now world leaders have someone to speak to.
No, Donald Trump is exactly right. And that's the funniest stuff is something that's true. And Donald Trump is just speaking the God's honest truth. Though, when these world leaders wanted to speak to somebody here in America, they got the busy signal. Joe Biden was taking a nap. And now that Donald Trump is in power, they can actually talk to somebody and get things done and actually, help not just their citizens, but help American citizens. We finally have a president and not a puppet in office. It feels good to say I'm an American with Donald Trump in power.
Alex Stein, thank you so much for joining us on Power Hour. Great to chat to you.
Always a pleasure. Thank you for having me.